barely game plan for Chicago. They
stays in bounds. That look says it all.
He organizes guys in the summer.
I can't stand him sounds harsh, but Kevin McHale's real problem was never just one player. It started with James Harden. McHale coached him in Houston. He saw the talent up close. He saw the scoring. He saw the passing. But he did not see a leader. So in the summer of 2015, McHale went on television and said it out loud. He said Harden was not a leader. He said a winning team needs a voice, someone who can demand defense and effort from everyone. He said Harden could not be that voice. Then he told a darker story. He said Harden showed up to camp the next year fat and did not feel like playing. The team started slow, McHale got fired, and Harden hit back fast. He called McHale a clown. That is where this story begins. But it is not where it ends. And if you like stories where legends say the quiet part out loud, give this video some hype because this one only gets more uncomfortable from here. Kevin McHale was a Celtics legend. He was a Hall of Famer, he was one of the most skilled post players the game has ever seen. But when it came to respect, he did not hand it out easily. He judged players by old rules: toughness, humility, conditioning, defense, team success. That made his opinions sharp, and sometimes it made them unfair. To understand why McHale was so hard on people, you have to understand his code, because McHale did not just hate at random. He had a system. He had a way of deciding who deserved his respect and who did not. And that system was built in a brutal time, by a brutal man, in a brutal league. His code had three main parts. The first part was accountability. McHale believed a real leader uses his voice. He believed a leader looks his teammates in the eye and demands more, not with stats, not with quiet effort, with words, with pressure, with the courage to call out a teammate who is not pulling his weight. To McHale, leading by example was not enough. You had to lead out loud. The second part was physical discipline. McHale believed a pro should always be ready to play. That meant staying in shape. That meant fighting through pain. That meant treating your body like a tool for winning, not a thing to protect. McHale played on a broken foot in 1987. He sacrificed his own health to win. So when he saw players rest or show up out of shape, it offended him deeply. The third part was humility about history. McHale believed greatness is something other people give you. It is not something you take for yourself. In his mind, you let the fans, the writers, and your rivals call you great. You do not call yourself great. The moment you do, you have broken the code. And these rules did not come from nowhere. They were forged in the toughest era the league has ever seen. The 1980s NBA was a war. The Celtics, the Lakers, and the Pistons fought like armies. The defense was brutal. The fouls were hard. There was a code in every locker room, a wall of silence and toughness that outsiders never saw. You kept your distance from rivals, you hid your injuries, you protected your team's secrets, you earned everything through pain. McHale grew up inside that world. It shaped every belief he holds. So when he judges a modern player, he is not using rules he made up. He is using the rules that were beaten into him game after game, season after season, in a league that did not care about your feelings. These three rules sound simple, but they were also a trap, because they only fit one kind of player. They fit the kind of player McHale used to be, and McHale felt he had earned the right to judge everyone else by them. He had reason to feel that way. McHale was not just talking. He had the career to back it up. He played 13 seasons, all with Boston. He won 3 titles. He made the All-Star team 7 times. He was named to the All-Defensive team 6 times. He was so good off the bench that he won 6th Man of the Year twice before he even became a full starter. His rise tells the story on its own. He did not arrive as a superstar. He grew into one year by year through pure work. He went from scoring around 18 points a game to nearly 20, then 21, and finally a huge 26 points a night at his peak. His rebounds climbed as he got stronger. His blocks climbed too, all the way past 2 a game. He went from a deadly bench weapon to a first-team All-NBA force. In that magic 1987 season, he even finished 4th in the vote for Most Valuable Player. He kept making the All-Defensive First Team year after year, proving he could guard as well as he could score. This was no fluke and no one-year shine. It was a long, patient climb to the very top of the sport, and that climb is the root of his attitude. He had earned every inch of it the hard way. So in his mind, he had every right to tell younger players how the job should be done. And his game was a thing of beauty. People called him the torture chamber. Once he caught the ball on the low block, the defender was finished. He had moves on top of moves. A fake, then a spin, then a counter, then another counter. His arms were so long that his shots could not be blocked. Defenders knew what was coming and still could not stop it. The numbers were stunning too. In the 1986 and 1987 season, McHale did something no one had ever done. He shot over 60% from the field and over 80% from the free throw line in the same year. No player in NBA history had ever paired those two marks. And he did it while taking nearly 17 shots a night. He was not just efficient on easy looks, he was efficient on a heavy load. His true shooting percentage that year was 65.5%. That was the fourth highest mark ever for a player who scored 2,000 points in a season. Remember, the league average that year was only 53.8%. McHale was not a little better than his peers. He was miles ahead. This is why McHale looked down on modern scoring. He had a famous line about it. He said scoring a lot of points was actually the least impressive thing a player could do. Because points, he argued, just come from how many shots you take and how long you hold the ball. To McHale, anyone could pile up points if they shot enough. Real value came from efficiency, defense, and winning. So now you see the problem. McHale had a code. He had the career to prove the code worked for him, and he had a sharp tongue. Put those things together, and you get a man who could be brilliant and bitter at the same time. A man who could teach you the game and tear you down in the same breath. Which brings us back to James Harden. This was the strongest clash of McHale's coaching life. The two men were together in Houston from 2012 to 2015. On paper, it should have worked. Harden was a young, brilliant scorer. McHale was a Hall of Fame teacher of the game, but their values did not match. And in the end, that gap blew the whole thing apart. The trouble came to a head in the 2015 playoffs. Houston was in the Western Conference semifinals against the Los Angeles Clippers. It was Game 6. The Rockets were trying to claw back into the series. And in the fourth quarter, during the comeback, McHale did something a coach almost never does to his star. He benched Harden. He sat his best player while the team fought to win. That move told everyone how McHale really felt. He did not fully trust Harden to lead the charge. Houston actually won that series, but the message had already been sent. And the following summer, McHale made it public. He went on the show Open Court and spoke plainly. He said Harden could do amazing things. He could score. He could pass. He could carry an offense. But he was not a leader, McHale said. A real title team needs a vocal leader. It needs someone who can stand up and demand defense from everyone else. And in McHale's eyes, Harden could not do that. He tried to lead by example, but he could not command the room. Then came the part that stung the most. McHale said that the next season, Harden showed up to training camp out of shape. He used a hard word. He said Harden came in fat and did not feel like playing. The team started 4-7, and 11 games into the year, McHale was fired. In McHale's telling, the lack of effort from his star helped cost him his job. He even hinted that Harden had a plan and that the plan did not include him. Think about how deep that cut goes. McHale was not just saying Harden played badly. He was saying Harden chose comfort over the team. He was saying a star let his coach take the fall. In McHale's world, that is the worst sin of all. It breaks the first pillar of his code, the one about accountability. A leader is supposed to carry the blame, not pass it on. A leader is supposed to demand more from himself before he demands it from anyone else. McHale looked at Harden and saw the opposite. He saw a brilliant talent who would not own the hard parts of leading. And to a man who built his whole life on owning the hard parts, that was unforgivable. Harden did not stay quiet. He fired back and called McHale a clown. He attacked McHale's character. He made it clear he did not respect the man who had just questioned his leadership. The two of them were now on opposite sides of a deep divide. One man valued vocal leadership and grit. The other valued his own game and his own way. Here is where we have to be fair to both sides. McHale may have had a point. Leadership and conditioning do matter. A star who is out of shape does let his team down, and history would show that Harden's teams often fell short in big moments. So McHale was not crazy, but there is another way to read this. McHale was a coach who got fired, and when a coach gets fired, it is easy to blame the star. It is easy to say the player did not care enough. It is easy to make yourself the wise old voice and the player the spoiled kid. McHale's words were sharp, but they also came from a man whose job was gone. That does not make him wrong, but it does make him human. And it shows how quickly his code could turn into a weapon. That is the pattern you will see again and again. McHale picks a real flaw. Then he hits it harder than the moment deserves. Look at what he did with LeBron James. In 2016, LeBron led the Cleveland Cavaliers to a title. It was one of the greatest comebacks in finals history. They came back from down 3-1 against a 73-win Warriors team. It was a huge moment. And in the glow of that win, LeBron spoke about himself in the highest terms. He talked about being the greatest. He branded himself the best ever. McHale could not stand it. To him, this broke the third rule of his code, the rule about humility. McHale called the self-praise disrespectful, not disrespectful to him. Disrespectful to the legends who came before. In McHale's view, you do not crown yourself. Other people crown you. He pointed to the giants of the past. He named Bill Russell. He named Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He named Michael Jordan. He named Larry Bird. He named Magic Johnson. All of them ruled the league. All of them changed the game. And in McHale's memory, none of them stood up and called themselves the greatest. They let the world say it for them. That, to McHale, was the right way. So McHale judged LeBron not for his play, but for his words. And again, you can see his point. There is something classy about letting your work speak. There is something old-fashioned and noble about it. But there is also a blind spot here. McHale was judging a new world by old rules. The league had changed. By LeBron's time, players were brands. They had shoe deals, social media, and businesses. Speaking up for yourself was part of the job. Confidence was not seen as disrespect, it was seen as power. McHale could not accept that shift. He treated belief in yourself as an insult to the past. He took a normal piece of modern athlete behavior and called it a sin. That tells you less about LeBron and more about McHale. He was a man frozen in his own era, judging a player who lived in a different one. And the gap between those eras was huge. Think about how the game changed. In McHale's day, you kept a cold distance from your rivals. You did not hug them. You did not trade jerseys after a game. You did not post about them. You played hurt, and you hid your pain, because showing weakness was a crime. Now the game looks totally different. Players shake hands before the game even starts. They swap jerseys when it ends. They rest healthy bodies to stay fresh for the playoffs. They control their own stories online. They build brands worth millions. None of that is wrong, it is just new. But to McHale, every piece of it looked soft. Every piece of it broke a rule he had lived by. So when he attacked LeBron's words, he was really attacking the whole new world those words came from. The same stubborn streak showed up with Draymond Green. Draymond is one of the best defenders of the modern game. He is the heart of a Warriors team that won 4 titles. He can guard all 5 positions. He is smart, tough, and fearless. And at one point, Draymond made a bold claim. He said he could guard any post player from any era, any size, any style, any decade. McHale heard that and laughed it off. His reply was short and brutal. He said Draymond could not grow enough to guard him. McHale was not joking about size. He stood 6'10" with a wingspan close to 8 feet. That length is what made him the torture chamber. He used his height and his reach to shoot over anyone. Draymond is listed at 6'6". To McHale, that gap was the whole story. He believed he would simply shoot over Draymond all night. He believed his footwork and his post moves would crush a smaller man. And maybe he was right. Maybe McHale really would have scored on Draymond in the post. He was that skilled and that big. But look at what McHale did in that answer. He took one of the smartest defenders in basketball and reduced him to a number on a height chart. He did not talk about Draymond's brain. He did not talk about his timing, his hands, or his nerve. He just talked about inches. That is the bias of an old-school big man. To McHale, defense in the post was about size and muscle, not cleverness and movement. This is McHale's discomfort with small ball laid bare. The modern game rewards quick, switchable defenders like Draymond. The old game rewarded huge, grinding bigs like McHale. He could not give the new style its due. He measured a modern great by a yardstick built for 1985. There is a deep irony here too. Draymond won by doing the exact things McHale claimed to love. He played team-first basketball, he sacrificed his own stats for winning. He talked on defense and held his teammates to a high bar. He was loud, vocal, and demanding. The very leadership McHale said Harden lacked in many ways. Draymond lived parts of McHale's own code. But because he did it in a small body, in a small ball world, McHale could not see it. The shape of the player blinded him to the spirit of the player. He was so locked on size that he missed the toughness staring right back at him. To really feel how narrow McHale's view could be, you have to go back even further. You have to go to his battles with Jack Sikma. Sikma is a name many young fans do not know, but he was a star. He was a Hall of Fame big man who played for Seattle and Milwaukee. He won a title, he made 7 All-Star teams, and he played a smart, modern kind of game for his time. Sikma was a finesse big. He liked to face the basket. He had a clean jump shot. He could step out and play what we now call pick and pop. He used skill and angles more than brute force. In many ways, he was ahead of his time. Big men today played just like he did. But McHale did not respect that style. McHale was a grinder. He lived on the low block. He punished people in the paint. He believed a big man should bang, bump, and bully his way to points. So when he faced a finesse player like Sikma, he did not see a fellow craftsman. He saw a soft player who avoided the real fight. Their battles in the paint were not just about points. They were about 2 ideas of what a big man should be. McHale tried to drag Sikma into a physical war. He wanted to expose him. He wanted to prove that grit beats finesse. To McHale, the jump shot and the face-up game were almost a kind of cheating. They let a big man dodge the dirty work. And this is where you really see how tight McHale's box was. Sikma was great. But because he did not punish people the way McHale did, he did not earn full respect. McHale's idea of toughness was so narrow that it left no room for a different path to greatness. If you did not win the way he won, in the place he won it, you were not truly tough. That is a very small door to walk through. And the saddest part is what McHale missed. The game would later prove Sikma right. The big men of today shoot threes, they face up, they pop out for jumpers, they space the floor just like Sikma did. The finesse style McHale dismissed did not die. It took over. It became the way modern basketball is played. So McHale was not just being hard on one rival, he was being hard on the future itself. He looked at a man who was ahead of his time and called him soft for it. That is the danger of a closed mind. It cannot tell the difference between a coward and a pioneer. But McHale did not save his sharpest words for one man. Sometimes his target was a whole team, and no team got under his skin like the 1990s Chicago Bulls. The Bulls are remembered as the greatest dynasty of their time. Michael Jordan led them to 6 titles. They are loved by millions. But McHale looked at them and felt something close to disgust, and the reason was loyalty to an old rival. Before the Bulls ruled the league, the Detroit Pistons did. People called them the Bad Boys. They played rough, hard, mean defense. They hit you, they knocked you down. And they beat Jordan's Bulls in the playoffs for years before the Bulls finally broke through. When the documentary The Last Dance came out, it told the story from the Bulls' side. It painted the Pistons as villains. It framed their hard defense as dirty, almost as thuggery. And McHale could not take it. McHale defended the Pistons. He said you could see exactly why Detroit did not like Chicago. He said the Bulls complained all the time. They moaned about the physical play. They acted like getting hit was a crime. And to McHale, that was weak. That was disrespectful to what the Pistons had built. In McHale's eyes, the Bulls were rewriting history. They were taking hard, honest playoff defense and calling it cheating. He felt that his own Celtics never did that. When Boston faced the rough Pistons, they did not whine. They embraced the war. They believed the physical battle made them better. So when McHale saw the Bulls cry foul, decades later in a film, he saw a soft team dressing up an excuse. You have to understand what those Pistons meant to a man like McHale. They were enemies, yes, but they were honest enemies. They hit you, and they let you hit back. There was a strange respect in that violence. Both teams knew the deal. Both teams paid the price. So when the Bulls later painted the Pistons as dirty criminals, McHale felt they were insulting a brotherhood of pain that he was part of too. An attack on the Bad Boys felt like an attack on his whole era. He was not really defending Detroit. He was defending the only kind of basketball he ever believed in. The hard kind. The kind that left marks. He even defended one of the most hated moments in NBA history. In 1991, after the Bulls finally beat them, the Pistons walked off the court without shaking hands. Most fans saw that as classless, as sore loser behavior. But McHale said it was normal for his era. He said that back in the 1980s, after a series-ending game, players almost never spoke to each other. He said in most of the series his team won, he did not say a word to anyone. There were no hugs, no jersey swaps, you just walked off. To him, the Pistons did nothing wrong. This is where McHale can sound the most bitter. The Bulls won. They became the team of the decade. They earned their place in history, but McHale could not let go of the 1980s. He viewed everything through a Celtics and Pistons lens. He defended a walk-off that the whole world had moved past. He judged a new dynasty by the manners of his own time. It was loyalty, yes, but it was also a man who refused to update his view of the world. And then there is the most personal clash of all. Kevin Love. This one is different because McHale did not just coach or commentate here. He was the executive who brought Love in. In 2008, McHale was running the Minnesota Timberwolves as their head of basketball operations. On draft night, he made the trade that landed Kevin Love. McHale chose him. He bet on him. But the relationship went sour fast. McHale and his staff did not like what they saw from the young big man. They questioned his defense. They questioned his stance, his effort, his conditioning. To them, Love was not putting in the work on the hard end of the floor. Now Love was producing on offense. He was a double-double machine. He grabbed rebounds by the bucket. He scored. He stuffed the box score. By the numbers, he looked like a rising star. But McHale was not impressed, and his reason goes straight back to his code. He argued that big stats on a losing team do not mean much. Minnesota was not winning. They were stuck near the bottom. So to McHale, Love's gaudy numbers were a bit empty. He believed that real respect comes from winning, not from personal stats on a team going nowhere. He even suggested that modern players cared more about their own numbers and their next contract than about the team. He saw Love as proof of that idea. A player chasing double-doubles while the team sank. But once again, we have to push back on McHale here. Love was young, he was on a poor team with little help. A player can only do so much on a roster that is not built to win. Judging him by team success was almost unfair, because the team was broken before Love ever arrived. McHale was holding a single player responsible for a whole organization's failure, and he was the one who helped build that organization. There is a strange knot in this one. McHale picked Love. McHale traded for him on draft night. So when McHale ran him down for weak defense and soft conditioning, he was also judging his own choice. He bet on the player, then blamed the player when the bet did not pay off fast enough. It is a bit like a man who builds a house on sand and then blames the house for sinking. Love did put up real numbers. He worked on the parts of his game that he was good at, but none of it counted in McHale's ledger, because the wins were not there. And the wins were not there partly because of choices McHale himself had made as the man in charge. So that is the pattern across all six: Harden, LeBron, Draymond, Sigma, the Bulls, and Love. In every case, McHale found a real flaw. And in every case, he hammered that flaw with a hardness that said more about his code than about the player. But here's the twist. McHale was not a man who hated everyone. He was not just a grumpy old legend swinging at the modern game. He had deep respect for certain players. And looking at who he respected tells you just as much as looking at who he did not. Start with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. McHale's respect for Kareem was total. He called him one of the greatest ever, full stop. And he was sad that younger fans forget him. McHale felt that Kareem gets left out of the greatest ever talk for a silly reason. Not because of his play, but because he did not have the flashy, made-for-TV charm of a Jordan or a LeBron. McHale thought that was unfair to a true giant, and McHale spoke from experience. He had to guard Kareem. He admitted that Kareem was a player he simply could not stop. He remembered how, in the tightest finals games, the Lakers would just hand the ball to Kareem on the right block. And from there, the skyhook was unstoppable. McHale was one of the best defenders alive, and he tipped his cap. That is real respect, earned in battle, and notice what kind of greatness won McHale over. Kareem did not boast. He did not brand himself. He just kept dropping that skyhook year after year and let the results do the talking. He was quiet, steady, and deadly. He carried his teams in the biggest moments without ever pounding his own chest. That was everything. McHale wished the modern stars would be a giant who let his game speak and his trophies do the bragging. In Kareem, McHale saw the perfect answer to LeBron. One man took his crown by force of words. The other had it placed on his head by everyone who watched him play. To McHale, only one of those crowns was real, and that, more than any number on a stat sheet, is why he could not stop praising him. Then there's Julius Erving, Dr. J. When McHale was a rookie, the Celtics veterans actually told him not to shake Irving's hand. That is how serious the rivalry was. You did not befriend the enemy. And early on, Irving even dunked right on the young McHale and embarrassed him. But McHale never lost his respect for Irving's greatness. He saw him as one of the best to ever play. And over time, the fierce rivals became close friends. The hatred on the court turned into a real bond off it. To McHale, that was the perfect story. You fight like enemies between the lines. Then you respect each other like brothers once the war is over. That was his ideal of how the game should work. That story matters more than it seems. To McHale, the Irving bond was proof that his hard code was not really about hate. It was about honesty. You could fight a man with everything you had, then respect him deeply once the buzzer sounded. The war and the friendship were two sides of the same coin. Both came from taking the game seriously. Both came from giving your full self to the battle. That is why McHale could be so harsh and so loyal at the same time. In his mind, the harshness was a form of respect. He only pushed hard against players he thought could take it and should know better. And finally, there's Larry Bird, the man McHale played next to for all those years. Their bond was real, but it was not always smooth. Bird was a perfectionist. He worked and worked and worked. And he was often annoyed by McHale's easy, joking nature. He thought McHale took his huge talent too lightly. In 1983, after the Celtics got swept by the Milwaukee Bucks, Bird called McHale out in public. He pointed at his casual attitude, and McHale did not love it. He hated being painted as the lazy natural, while Bird was the hard worker. He felt that was not fair to how much he gave. And there's a lesson hiding in that old argument. The thing that hurt McHale most was being called lazy. Being seen as a man who coasted on talent, he could not stand it. So is it any wonder that he now points the same finger at others? The harshest critic of soft, easy players is a man who spent his career fighting the label of a soft, easy player. He judges others by the exact standard he once had to defend himself against. His criticism of the modern game is, in a strange way, the echo of an old wound. He proved he was a worker. Now he demands that everyone else prove it too. But under all of that, the respect was rock solid. Bird praised McHale's defense over and over. He knew how special McHale was on that end. And McHale, for his part, accepted playing behind Bird. He took a smaller role so the team could win. He gave up shine for titles, and they won 3 together. That sacrifice, that choice of winning over ego, was McHale's whole code in action. So look at what links these 3. Kareem won and stayed humble. Irving was great and became a loyal friend. Bird worked harder than anyone and put the team first. Each one fit a piece of McHale's code. Each one earned his respect the hard way. But notice what that really means. Even McHale's respect proves how strict he was. You did not get his praise just by being great. You had to be great in his specific way. You had to be humble like Kareem. You had to be loyal like Irving. You had to sacrifice like Bird. If you were great in a different way, the door stayed shut. That is the truth about Kevin McHale. His respect was a locked room, and he held the only key. He decided who fit and who did not, using rules built in a world that no longer exists. So was McHale right or wrong? The honest answer is both. He was often too harsh. He judged a new league by an old map. He reduced Draymond to inches. He treated LeBron's confidence as a crime. He blamed Harden when his own job fell apart. He held Kevin Love responsible for a broken team. He could not let the Bulls have their crown. Again and again, his code made him stubborn, narrow, and at times unfair, but his hardness came from a real place. He did not invent his rules to be cruel. He lived them. He played through a broken foot in 1987 because winning meant more to him than his own body. He gave up shots and stardom to fit beside Bird. He set scoring records so efficient that no one has matched them since. He earned the right to have standards, even if those standards were too rigid for the world that came after. And maybe that is the fairest way to see him. Not as a hater, not as a bitter old man swinging at kids, but as a keeper of an old flame. Every era needs someone who remembers how hard it used to be. Someone who refuses to let the past be forgotten or softened. McHale is that man for the 1980s. He stands guard over a brutal, beautiful time, and he will not let anyone pretend it was easy or unimportant. Yes, that makes him stubborn. Yes, it makes him unfair at times, but it also makes him honest. He is the last voice of a vanished world, and he speaks for it without apology. That is the key to understanding the torture chamber. McHale came up in a brutal league. The 1980s were rough, mean, and physical. Respect was not given. It was taken in the paint, through pain. So when he looks at the modern game, he is not really judging Harden or LeBron or Draymond. He is defending the only world he ever knew. a world where you had to bleed before you could be praised. In McHale's mind, basketball was supposed to hurt before it honored you. That is why his respect was so hard to earn. Not because he hated the new players, but because to him, greatness without sacrifice was not greatness at all. It was just talent. And talent, he believed, was the easy part. There is something almost tragic in that belief. McHale spent his life proving that work beats talent. He was the gifted big man who refused to coast. He drilled his footwork until his moves looked like magic. He turned his long arms into weapons. He shaped raw skill into something unstoppable through sheer effort. So when he sees a young star who has not paid that price, it does not just annoy him, it feels like a betrayal of everything he stands for. He cannot cheer for greatness that came too easy, because to him, easy greatness is a kind of waste. It is talent without the soul that makes talent matter. Kevin McHale could be harsh, he could be stubborn, he could be unfair, but he was never fake. He said the quiet part out loud because he truly believed it. And whether you agree with him or not, you have to respect a man who lived by the same hard code he used to judge everyone else. He earned his place on that parquet floor, and he is still standing on it, telling us the truth as he sees it, whether we want to hear it or not. That is the torture chamber, and that is his code.